Hello, and welcome to In Conversation, the Harley Street Health District podcast. I'm Jenny Shand, and I'm here at Hale House today in the middle of the Harley Street Health District. In this mini series, we are speaking to leaders who are building health and innovation districts around the world, from Texas to Nashville, and today in Barcelona. We're asking, what does it take to build a thriving district? I'm delighted to be joined by Robert Fabregat, who's the CEO at Biocat. Robert, tell us more about yourself and a little bit about Biocat.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I just very briefly introduce myself. I am chemist. I did my PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry, and then I moved to the transfer of technology because it was one of the main focuses that I wanted to develop my career. And during some years, I also was at the Ministry of Health of the government of Catalonia, working in the Research and Innovation Director General. Place. And now I am here in Biocat since 4 years and a half as a CEO. And yes, I will explain a bit more about Biocat. Biocat, in fact, this 2026 is our 20th anniversary. It was created in 2006, and at that moment, it was created it was promoted by the government of Catalonia and also the City Council of Barcelona, and it was created as a public-private foundation. But on the other side, representing the whole ecosystem and the private sector, we have the representation of the hospital, research centers, scientific parks, also philanthropic foundations, also the association of the most important private companies, pharmaceutical, medical devices, biotech. So the idea was to have around the same table the representation of the whole ecosystem.
That's really exciting about that breadth of partners and participation that you've got. And tell us more about the specific gap that it was designed to fill.
The idea was to create the community. So to increase the synergies and the connection between the different agents in our ecosystem. So from the very beginning of the creation of new knowledge and new technologies and new innovation, we help the transfer of technology that comes from the academia, from the public research centers, from the hospitals, from the universities. And finally, we are very well connected to the public health systems in order to allow it to ensure that the adoption and the implementation of this innovation arrives to the patients through the most efficient and fast way. So we try to cover the whole value chain from the very beginning till the end, and also trying to put Catalonia in the international global market and position.
Yeah, keen to come back to that piece around the global hub. But let's just think a little bit more about that translation of research into practice. What are some of the big decisions you've made that have helped to accelerate that journey?
So when we go abroad, when we go to different events or different congresses with investors, what we present there is the portfolio of the whole bioregion of Catalonia. Take into account that we have a portfolio of around 250 innovations that are in the first steps of the transfer of technology, that are looking for money, for the creation of new startups. So we try to collect all of them, and once, if there is any interest from international, not only investors, but maybe corporates, companies, etc., what we do is to connect them.
Yeah. And it's quite an interesting working as a neutral convener. How do you manage the competing interests? So each partner has got a particular sort of skin in the game or objective. How do you stay neutral about how you bring that sort of research into practice and make sure you don't get lost into any one partner's agenda?
Yeah, this is not easy because at the end, one of the most important difficulties that we have in our bioregion is lacking of money, no? And this makes that the different partners that we have in our ecosystem, they need to compete between them and among them. I think that one of the good things that when Biocat was created is that we maintain this neutral position. So we always say we do not have membership, so we represent the whole bioregion of Catalonia, and we try to help all of them at the same levels. We try to have indicators, very neutral and objectives, that once when we decide, for example, no, if we want to help a project or startup, a spin-off, and we want to put our resources them, there are very open calls and competitive way in order to choose which are the projects that will receive our support.
And that's really helpful. And I think in most health districts, we do have different organisations that are naturally competing, and it's important to recognise that. And I think in Harley Street Health District, we've been very reflective, particularly around our provider community, of how do you maintain collaboration and recognise the boundaries of that because of the competitive nature of industry. Are there specific things you've done in your ecosystem to help maintain that collaboration?
Well, we have different programs and tools that are being led by Biocat, no? And this means we have training programs to trying to train new entrepreneurs very well connected with the hospitals, trying to identify the new needs that the hospitals and the healthcare systems has, no? We also have accelerator programs for the companies, startups, not the very beginning steps of the development in medical devices, in advanced therapies, but in addition to that, we collaborate with a lot of other initiatives that are not led by Biocat. So this allows us to create this network with different synergies, no, to see that somehow Biocat is a tool for everyone, no, it's not for only one.
And I think often we get very excited about new solutions and innovations, but forget what's the problem we're trying to solve and how we stay really embedded in those hospital systems to learn about what are the gaps that they want filled and the public health systems. Describe a little bit more about your relationships with hospitals at Biocat.
From the very beginning, Biocat was directly related with the Ministry of Health of Catalonia. There was a gap that was this connection with the hospitals. No, what we started to do 4 or 5 years ago is to put in the center of everything the patients and the adoption of the innovation. So we are working directly with the Ministry of Health in a program to promote and to make faster the adoption of the innovation to the healthcare system, the public one. And this means that from one side we're working with them to identify the priorities and the needs that the healthcare system has. One of our programs that is the training program, that the idea is that through a biodesign process and methodology, people are working within the hospitals in order to identify directly with them the needs that they have. Once they identify these needs, they create the different solutions, and these solutions finally are not converted in a startup or spin-off that will try to develop.
That's really helpful, Robert. And I think we, as you say, see in Europe that implementation gap is huge and making sure that we don't just have research data, but ongoing evaluation data about how do we maximize utility of these new innovations in practice. Can you take us through that pathway as an example of a problem that you've solved with an innovator that you've supported through the Biocat ecosystem?
There are very nice examples, but the last ones, for example, that was robots for surgery, and where we help them, it was not in the technology because they know a lot about the technology, but was trying to connect with the hospitals because they were developing a decentralized model. This means that for a medium or a small hospital, a robot for surgery maybe it's not need because they do not have so many surgeries, not to ensure that, no, to justify, no, buying a robot, but the robot during 1 week can go maybe to 4 or 5 different hospitals, no, and doing things very fast. So maybe if one hospital needs just 1 day of the robot, they do not need to pay a robot, no, for having in house. So this is an example of a small company that was created in Catalonia, trying to compete with the big ones in the world.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for that example. We have quite a lot of interest in robots in Harley Street Health District. I think the Vinci was it the Vinci robot was the first in Harley Street Health District, and we've managed to maintain that in some of our providers, which is quite exciting. So I like that story about how you were sharing that resource around different groups. Let's come back to that global element. So how do you position Barcelona to attract some of that global investment and global talent?
Every year we present the bioregion report, and we were able to show the indicators of last year of 2025. We are also in the top position in clinical trials. In fact, Catalonia is in the fourth position in Europe, seven in the world, and take into account that nearly 90% of the clinical trials in Spain, there is a Catalan hospital there. And also what we are seeing in Barcelona, that this being very attractive for talent, because we also have an attractive and international city that is a nice place to live and to create no your professional career. And in addition, not to very good news as the one that we had no of AstraZeneca is putting just Barcelona in the map. So this community, I think that is very rich. It's not usual to find all these ingredients, no, very close. I'm very well connected and with good relations between them.
Yeah, I mean, we were quite envious of the AstraZeneca opening up last year in Barcelona, and that really does put you on the map as a global hub. And it's really interesting the connections with accelerating those research trials. That's something I think we're always curious about learning more about. What specifically have you done to accelerate the trial process so you can recruit patients quicker and maintain that sort of global presence with pharma and with the research industry?
I think that one of the most important things has been the clinical trials, for sure. The Spanish agency during the last 10 years uh, try to make the processes very fast and more agile. Not this allowed us not to be more attractive for the big pharma. In addition to that, the campus of the hospitals, they are very well connected with the research centers that are inside this campus, and they created a very specific facilities not to allow the clinical trials.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and I think those sort of elements that you talked about around investment, the role of talent, and then fundamentally delivering impact for patients, giving them access to novel therapies, giving them better outcomes is really powerful. Can you tell a bit more about other forms of investment? So there's obviously investment into research infrastructure, but you've also talked about innovators and accelerator programs. Are there other relationships that you've got to try and get investment into new technologies and innovations that might be more around the sort of health tech end rather than around pharma?
Yes, we are also through our unit of business development, we try to also to be well connected with those VCs and investors in the world that they are interested in Catalonia. This in 2025, we arrived to the historical maximum investment that our startups and spin-off were able to raise, more than 500 million euros. This is for sure, no, it's a small quantity, but it's the biggest in Catalonia through its history. And the most important for me is that the money and the investment that we raise, it comes and even more no every year from international VCs. The VCs from the US are looking to Catalonia because they say there is a very good research and they are going there now for the investment.
Yeah, and I think those international relationships are really interesting to hear about because there's the sort of global investment in Barcelona, but there's also then how do you keep building those bridges and collaborations and what that looks like. We are in the UK, we're in a publicly funded healthcare system and we have got private provision, but it's very much a sort of politically run healthcare system. Really interested to learn more about how you balance public and private priorities and what that looks like in reality.
Oh, for us, it's a great mandate, not that to ensure that the public health system is sustainable. And what we are working together with the Ministry of Health in Catalonia, but also the Ministry of Health in Spain, is how through the innovation we can help the healthcare system to be sustainable in the future. So, not the number of chronic diseases is increasing. We are living more years, and this makes that we will need more money not to ensure the sustainability of our public healthcare systems. At the end, no, the public money has a limit. So this comes from our taxes and is limited. So we are very convinced that the solution goes through the innovation. We also are very convinced that the solution goes through a public-private collaboration. Uh, the public administration will not be able to solve everything only with public funding, and we need to create this trust between the public and the private sides of the ecosystems, trying to solve together these needs that we have.
Yeah, I think that's really important and how you get that courage to do things differently and to try and transform sometimes parallel processing, sort of business as usual. I think what's interesting in Harley Street Health District is we've got 3,000 consultants that work some of the time in the private system and some of the time in the public system. So there is a sort of knowledge exchange from that, and also a chance to test out things and see how things are done differently, which we're quite excited about. Um, I think many of our health systems are grappling with similar issues around sustainability, around workforce, around this rapidly evolving population health and population health needs, alongside science that's developing new solutions for that. What do you see as the big priorities for Biocat going forwards? What are your top three things you're looking at over the next 5 to 10 years?
So helping the digital transformation, the implementation of AI, also constructing and consolidating Catalonia, but constructing a network of highly advanced hubs and ecosystems in Europe that will develop the advanced therapies in clinical phases. If we want to give the solutions to the people, we cannot do things alone. So I think that in advanced therapies, we need to have a European common B1 to create and strengthen these connections. In the future, we'll need more specialized talent, and we need to create, to attract, and to maintain this talent, and the adoption of innovation, and finally, sustainability, economical sustainability for the healthcare public systems, but also sustainability in terms of One Health concepts, no, that we are living in a world, and the pharma and the healthcare industry uh, creates a lot of problems in terms of sustainability to the planet. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Robert. And we've talked quite a lot about some of those macro pieces and the big sort of programs you bring together in your convening role. Tell us about some of the events that you've got coming up where you're bringing people together. What sort of topics are you discussing?
We have a very good relation, for example, with Bio Europe, and they normally come Bio Europe spring to Barcelona every 5 years. We also ensure not that the most important event in Spain would be located every 2 years in Barcelona. It is Bio Spain, and we are also attracting great congresses for investors. LSI, for example, and others in the past, the Resi Congress, that is a one from the US.
I can imagine. So you're trying to curate your events rather than be too distracted from business as usual as well. That's brilliant. Robert, thank you so much for spending some time with us to share about Biocat's journey, about how Barcelona has really built this global hub of research and innovation into practice. And what really chimed for me is about the focus and relentless focus on that patient benefit, and how you make sure that all of these different groups are working towards that common aim. If you've enjoyed listening to this conversation with the Harley Street Health District podcast, please subscribe, please share it with colleagues, and please do join us to learn more about people who are shaping the future of healthcare. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.